Welcome and thank you to everyone who is joining us on this lovely Saturday morning. My name is David Selk and I'm the horticulture supervisor here at Woodland Park Zoo. And just as it sounds, I oversee all things plants in both our guest areas and our animal habitats. My team and I care for about 94 acres and hundreds of plant species found all over the world, including right here in the Pacific Northwest. We also care for many unique exotic plants that you can find in some of our indoor exhibits, such as the tropical rainforest dome. When we're planning for an environment with our animal habitat areas, we always mimic the part of the world the animal is from, while taking into consideration individual animal needs and growing conditions for the plants themselves. It can be like a puzzle to figure out how to replicate the look of the tropical rainforest of lowland Malaysia or the grasslands of East Africa while choosing plants that will survive in our temperate outdoor conditions of the Pacific Northwest. It's important for us to recreate the home habitats of our animal friends, not only to immerse our guests in the animals world, but because it has been shown to bring out more natural behavior in the animals. When our guests see Kitoko, our 1.5-year-old Western lowland gorilla, learning and exploring the world on his own through tasting and climbing on the many different types of vegetation in his habitat, they understand why it's important to protect the habitat for gorillas in the wild. They make the connection between saving wildlife means saving their habitat. All animals, including ourselves, need an environment that provides us with food, water, shelter, and a place to raise our children, and for them to thrive. In urban areas like Seattle, it can be a challenge for wildlife to find food, shelter, and water because of the lack of green spaces. There are many things we can do in our own yards to help promote livable space for the wildlife we coexist with, which we will learn about a little bit later. When it comes to plants, nature often finds a way and adapts to many different environmental situations. Have you ever seen a tree growing around a chain-link fence, or its roots causing the concrete sidewalk to crack? It is endlessly fascinating to learn about the amazing adaptations plants have. One type of plant that demonstrates an amazing evolutionary adaptation are carnivorous plants, like the ones we have right here, Saracenia, also known as pitcher plants. Pitcher plants can be found in bog areas of the Pacific Northwest, and bogs are just wetlands that accumulate peat, which is deposits of dead plant material that form over thousands of years. Because of the peat, bogs are very acidic and low in nutrients, such as nitrogen, which is essential for all living things. And to get the nitrogen, carnivorous plants such as pitcher plants have evolved to become meat eaters. And I'm going to show you how they do it. Here is a pitcher plant, and it gets its name from the pitchers, which are actually modified leaves. The flower is right here, so it's a regular flowering plant in that sense, but the pitcher is in a unique structure, and I'm going to cut it open to show you exactly how it does it. At the tip of the pitcher, right here, the lip is downturned, and there are nectaries along the inside. And the nectaries are obviously what produce nectar, and that's what attracts the insects. They come into the pitcher, and inside here are downward pointing hairs that prevent the insect from crawling out. Also on the inside, it's a very waxy lining of the pitcher, and that is too slippery for them to get their foothold on. So they end up falling down into the base of the pitcher where there are enzymes that digest them, and they get the nitrogen. So we're going to split this open and show you the inside of this plant, which is full of, there are bees, there are flies, there are ants, there's all sorts of stuff in there. So all of this is food for the plant. Another native plant I would like to share with you is the Viola Odunka, also known as the early blue violet. These plants are very important to us at the zoo, as they are critical to the success of one of our local conservation projects, Butterflies of the Northwest, which supports the conservation of the threatened Oregon silver spot butterfly. The zoo raises young silver spot caterpillars and reintroduces them back into their native habitat once they reach adulthood. The larvae, which have chewing mouthparts, pretty much eat only one thing, and it's the early blue violet seen here. We can have up to 2,000 larvae in a season, and since each larvae can eat 2 of these plants while they're growing, we have 4,000 violets ready for them. The violets are fairly common in Western North America, but are very important for animals such as the silver spot butterfly. Through this conservation program, between 1,000 and 2,000 silver spot butterfly pupae have been released each year since 2001. As I previously mentioned, there are many things we can do in our yards to help promote livable space for wildlife we coexist with, such as butterflies. So let's go check out our pollinator garden to learn more. When we talk about pollinators, most people think of honeybees, which are important pollinators, but there are so many different types, including bumblebees, sweat bees, mason bees, hoverflies, beetles, butterflies, moths, and hummingbirds, just to name a few. And different pollinators need different types of flowers, which is why a diversity of plants is important for attracting wildlife to your yard. I'd like to show you 2 types of pollinators and the types of flowers they prefer. One of the most magical types of pollinators are hummingbirds. Now, the hummingbird bill is perfectly suited for going down a tube. So tubular flowers, or flowers that are shaped like tubes, are what attract hummingbirds. And here we have a common garden hardy fuchsia. And I'm going to pick one of these flowers to show you how it works. So this is a fuchsia flower, and remember when we talked about the carnivorous plants, we talked about the nectaries and how that attracted insects to the nectar. And those were right around the lip of that vase of the carnivorous plant. Well, the nectaries on the fuchsia are way down here at the bottom of this tube. So if you want to think of a regular insect like a bee, it's hard for them or almost impossible for them to get down there. But a hummingbird has this long bill that can get all the way down and get that nectar. But in the process, it's pollinating the flower. So here we have the female part of the flower, and here we have the male part of the flower. So the hummingbird comes in, it has to fight its way through all of this stuff to get down to that nectar. And in the process, it picks up all this pollen, and then goes to the next flower, hits that female part of the flower, deposits the pollen, and goes and collects more nectar and goes from flower to flower, thereby pollinating each of the flowers. It's great stuff. One type of pollinator that people love seeing in their yard is butterflies. Now, butterflies have small bodies with big wings, so when the wind is blowing, it makes them difficult to fly around. So the types of flowers that butterflies prefer are types that they can fly to and walk around on without having to fly from flower to flower. They can just walk from flower to flower. If you think of lilacs as this cluster of flowers, the butterfly can fly to that and just literally walk from flower to flower. Now here we have Shasta Daisies. And you think of this as a flower, as one daisy flower, but it's actually many, many flowers. Each one of these petals that you pull off when you say love me not, each one of these has a little flower at the base. And these center flowers, this center part, the yellow part, is actually about, well, there's hundreds and hundreds of different flowers in there. So the butterfly can fly to this and stay right here and collect nectar from many, many flowers before it can then walk over to the next flower, do that whole thing, walk to the next one. So that way they can collect the nectar they need without having to exert all of that energy of flying from flower to flower. Pollinators play so many critical roles on this planet. In fact, about 30% of the world's food crops and 75% of all flowering plants depend on animal pollinators to reproduce. Without pollinators, diversity on our planet would be much less than it is. Unfortunately, many pollinator species have had declines in their populations for a number of reasons, including habitat loss and pesticide use. By creating a wildlife-friendly garden and reducing pesticide use, you can help save these animals critical to life here on Earth. Attracting pollinators and wildlife to your yard is easier than you think. By providing water sources and food in the form of pollinator plants, and by encouraging others to do the same, we can create more green space that helps these animals thrive. Eliminating the use of pesticides as much as possible also has a positive effect on pollinator populations. In the place of pesticides, Adding compost to your garden builds stronger, more vigorous plants, which helps them resist these unwanted pests. Compost not only helps the pests, it helps invigorate your soil by adding healthy nutrients and also helps conserve water with its moisture-retaining abilities. Speaking of compost, the zoo has its own composting program, Voodoo. Next, we have the pleasure of learning from our Sustainable Waste Management Specialist, Liv Johansson, also known as Dr. Do, about all the wonders of the Voodoo program.
Hi, my name is Liv Johansson, Sustainable Waste Management Specialist here at Woodland Park Zoo. However, many people know me by a different title, Dr. Do. As the name implies, my role here is ensuring that our animals' wastes are managed, and that's where our Voodoo program takes center stage. In this video, you're going to get a quick tour of our Voodoo yard operations, one of our programs that keeps the zoo going and contributes to our mission. Before we get started, I want to give you a brief overview of how our program got started. Back in 1985, the program was conceived of in an effort to reduce disposal costs. However, over the years, our reasons for composting have grown. To date, we save more than $115,000 on disposal fees and are able to divert more than 2 million pounds of organic waste from landfill. Now, back in the 80s, the operation is not what you see here today. We used to do composting in large open-air piles that were manually moved and mixed as the materials decomposed. This process remained relatively unchanged until 2019, when we upgraded our facility and installed the equipment you see here today. Now our composting is done in these large concrete bunkers that are aerated from beneath. This new upgraded system has a number of benefits, including remote operation, faster decomposition times, and the ability to monitor temperatures up to the minute. With these upgrades, we are able to ensure that we process all 500 tons of material annually with expansion possibilities in the future. So how does Voodoo get made? Well, it starts behind the scenes, where volunteers and zookeepers collect manures and beddings from the animal habitats, and they're transported here to the Voodoo yard. When they get here, they're mixed in a mixer truck to ensure that the straw, hay, wood chips, and manures are uniform. These piles are built up over the course of 10 days when they are moistened with water and then insulated with a tarp and a finished layer of compost. What these layers do is ensure that the piles are insulated, ensures that no odors escape, and also creates an environment where the compost can cook uniformly. By cooking, what I mean is the process of composting itself. The decomposers, the bacteria, fungi, enzymes, and others that are in the pile actively eat the fibers that are in there, breathe the oxygen in the piles, and release heat as a byproduct. I want to show you how hot these piles can get. Some of our piles reach temperatures of 170 degrees, but they remain at over 131 degrees Fahrenheit for a minimum of 3 days to ensure proper pathogen destruction. After the piles have actively composted at these high temperatures for 30 days, they are moved over to our secondary composting, or our curing piles, which are over here. In the curing phase, where the temperatures are a bit lower, our mesophilic decomposers take advantage of these temperatures to break down some of the more fibrous, lignin-rich materials that are in the compost. This phase lasts another 30 days before we take the piles and we move them to the finishing phase. In the finishing phase, the compost has gone through active primary and secondary curing composting phases. And here you can see that the product is quite uniform. It has a nice brown earthy color, and it even sometimes has the presence of earthworms. All of this weighting creates a compost that is rich, earthy, and full of nutrients that plants love, including phosphorus and nitrogen. Once the compost is finished, it has a variety of uses. Our horticultural team applies it on zoo grounds, and we sell it to home gardeners twice a year at fecal fests in spring and fall. In addition, we create 2-gallon and pint-sized containers for sale at the zoo store year-round, and we sell a limited edition Holiday product in November and December in 4-gallon containers. In addition to selling our Voodoo, we also donate it to local schools and nonprofit nonprofit organizations. We also give in-person tours of the operation. What we love about composting, and especially about teaching others about composting, is it can be a really easy way to instigate the motivation to be sustainable in your daily life. Lastly, I want to talk about our zoo's sustainability efforts. We have a zero waste operations goal, the largest part of which is ensuring that our Voodoo program receives all of the support that it needs. We also have a host of other sustainability opportunities that can be viewed on the zoo's website. I hope you have enjoyed this brief tour of the Voodoo Yard, and I hope that you feel empowered to take sustainability into your own hands by using or even producing compost of your own. And while I have you here, I want to take a moment to say thank you. Memberships like yours support the zoo's sustainability initiatives and the Voodoo Yard program. If you have any additional questions about our program, please feel free to visit our website at zoo.org/Voodoo.